The Egyptian president and Jordan's crown prince discussed Gaza's reconstruction. Marco Rubio arrives in Tel Aviv on his first Middle East visit as U.S. Secretary of State. And Israel receives 1,800 Mk-84 bombs after Trump lifts Biden-era shipment block. It's exactly 4 p.m. call local time and you're watching Qnews. We begin today's bulletin with latest developments in Gaza. Egypt and Jordan have condemned escalations in the West Bank and reaffirmed support for a two-state solution. That came as Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with Jordan's Crown Prince Hussein, who conveyed King Abdullah II's greetings. Discussions focused on strengthening bilateral ties and regional stability, especially in Palestine. Sisi and Hussein emphasized Egypt's role in securing the Gaza ceasefire, humanitarian aid, and reconstruction without displacement. The meeting also addressed Syria's unity and stability. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has met with the head of the World Jewish Congress, Ronald Lauder, alongside General Intelligence Chief Hassan Rashad. Discussions focused on restoring Middle East stability, including Egypt's efforts to uphold the Gaza ceasefire, facilitate humanitarian aid, and ensure detainee exchange. Lauder praised Egypt's role, while Sisi emphasized the urgency of a two-state solution and Gaza's reconstruction without displacement. He also reaffirmed his commitment to continue dialogue with Egypt. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have held talks in occupied Jerusalem. In a press conference, Netanyahu has said Trump is the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House. Netanyahu said he discussed with Rubio the bold vision of Trump for Gaza's future, adding that he and Trump are working in full cooperation and coordination on the situation in Gaza. The visit marks Rubio's first visit to the region as the U.S. Secretary of State. Israel has received a shipment of 1,800 heavy Mk-84 bombs from the United States after U.S. President Donald Trump lifted the block imposed on the munitions by previous administration of President Joe Biden. The Mk-84 is an unguided 2,000-pound bomb that Biden administration declined to clear for export to Israel out of concern over its likely effect in hitting densely populated areas in the Gaza Strip. The Biden administration sent thousands of 2,000-pound bombs to Israel after October 7, 2023, but had put them on hold. Shipment, the only hold, was lifted by Trump last month. "245 humanitarian aid trucks, including 19 carrying fuel, have entered the El Auja and Karam Abu Salim en route to Gaza. According to Al Qahira news agency, the aid convey facilitated by Egypt includes food, tents, and other essential supplies to support displaced residents. Egypt has facilitated vital aid and medical assistance for Palestinians crossing Rafah, providing free health care, surgeries and humanitarian relief while urging global support amid Gaza's crisis. And for more analysis on the situation, we now move on to Riham Morsi in our newsroom. Riham.
Thank you so much, Rana. We start off with the analysis segment where we're joined from Cairo by the International Relations Specialist, Dr. Mohammed Osman. Thank you so much for joining us here on Qnews.
Thank you for having me, Riham. Great to see you back.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back. Let's start off by asking Egypt's President Sisi and the Prince Hussein of Jordan both stressed the urgency of halting the Palestinian displacement. How effective do you believe Egypt's proposed reconstruction plans will be in alleviating the suffering and preventing further displacement of the Palestinian people?
Egypt's reconstruction plan basically is the last remaining lifeline that offers hope for a better tomorrow for the Palestinians of Gaza, who have been subjected to a genocidal campaign by the Israelis, backed by the United States over the past 15 months, which has caused widespread destruction and the death of tens of thousands of Palestinians. And that might be even an understatement. So when we look at the details of the main features that have come out of the reconstruction plan, it seems that it is a realistic plan that seeks to establish a roadmap to bringing life back to the Gaza Strip, making it livable once more, without displacing the Palestinians, without committing the crime of ethnic cleansing, as the Trump plan suggests, basically, which contravenes international law, and specifically international humanitarian law, as well as international human rights law. And I think that the Egyptian plan is garnering support from the international community and definitely will be endorsed by the entirety of the Arab world.
Well, as you said, the plan itself is a way to preserve, Palestinian life in Gaza. And the Jordan king, Crown Prince, reaffirmed his country's support for Egypt's Gaza reconstruction plans. How do you see Jordan's role when it comes to complementing Egypt's efforts in stabilizing the region and keeping the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and not displacing them?
Well, Egypt and Jordan, what they have in common, in addition to their position, their historical position in support of the Palestinian cause, is that they were at the receiving end or basically being targeted by the displacement schemes proposed by the United States and Israel. And so far, both of them, of course, have a vested interest in resisting and obstructing such plans and preventing them from happening. Therefore, they are taking collective action in order to prevent this. Egyptian and Jordanian efforts are coordinated. Today's visit by the Crown Prince of Jordan to Cairo and his meeting with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi demonstrated that Egypt and Jordan are united in the same position. The King of Jordan himself from Washington has declared that Jordan will endorse an Egyptian-led Arab reconstruction plan as an alternative to the American plan, basically. And this is the road that we are going, that everyone is trying to go down to, because without collective Arab action, this Trump plan could very much happen. Therefore, Egypt and Jordan are coordinating their efforts in order to create an Arab front against these sinister designs. And I think they have been so far successful in formulating a common Arab position regarding this matter. And I think it will be officially projected as a unified Arab stance on during the upcoming Arab League summit, emergency summit in the 27th of February in Cairo.
Well, as you said, this garnered, Arab support in general, the reconstruction plans and maintaining Palestinians in Gaza, and international support as well. Can we talk a bit about the ceasefire? How can Egypt and Jordan leverage their diplomatic weight to push for a credible international mechanism to ensure the sustainability of a ceasefire in Gaza?
I think that the United States, even despite the outrageous statements made by President Trump and some of some senior members of his administration, they are still interested in preserving the ceasefire in some form or the other, because they do not want the region to descend back into war, at least not at this point, or at least not before the release of the detainees. So therefore, they are interested in that, and Egypt and Jordan are taking advantage of this and trying to put forward a tangible, realistic way forward. And even Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, said that the United States is open to listening to the alternative proposals presented by the Arab world, of course, namely Egypt and Jordan, because President Trump named them both during the previous statements. So I think that through pushing for the stabilization of the ceasefire, through admitting more aid into the Gaza Strip, through ensuring that the detainee exchange goes as planned in accordance with the agreed upon schedule in the agreement and not in accordance with the fantasy schedules of the Israelis and the Americans, I think this gives the world something to work with. And the world wants to support such a scenario. We have seen the universal condemnation by the world, the world of the displacement plans, from the Europeans, Britain, even Australia. Of course, yesterday, the African Union in its entirety, 54 states, the Arab League, of course, the Islamic world, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, Russia, China, Brazil, everyone is against it. So it's only the United States and Israel in this corner. So once there is a viable alternative, I think that the world will come on board and support it. And maybe then we will have hope on the horizon.
Okay, sir, so far 245 aid trucks, including 19 fuel trucks, have entered in the Al-Auja and Karm Abu Salim border crossing today in preparation to enter the Gaza Strip. What role is Egypt playing in coordinating and facilitating aid to Gaza, and how significant is it, the contributions to sustain the humanitarian relief efforts in the Strip?
Since the beginning of the war, over 5,000 trucks entered the Gaza Strip. 70% of those trucks, at least, or the amount of aid on those trucks was Egyptian aid, worth billions of dollars. So you can imagine the magnitude, the amount of the Egyptian contribution to the aid delivery to the Gaza Strip. And also, in addition to Egypt's insistence and constant pressure to keep the aid flowing into the Gaza Strip. And one of the main provisions of the ceasefire agreement was the reopening of the Rafah border crossing, which was shuttered by the Israelis when they invaded Rafah. on the condition also that the Israelis withdraw from the Rafah border crossing and be replaced by the Palestinian authorities and European Union observers. And this is exactly what has happened. And this has also helped facilitate further aid into the Gaza Strip. And this is what basically what is keeping the Gaza Strip livable, what is keeping the people from starving and dying out of starvation and malnutrition. And I think this is something that Egypt has been steadfastly advocating and pushing for. And I think, but still, the Israelis are still putting constraints on the amount of aid that is coming in. 245 trucks, from 200 to 300 trucks enter daily. The agreed upon amount of trucks that should enter the Gaza Strip per the agreement is 608 trucks and 50 fuel trucks. Yet the Israelis are still trying to obstruct
it. Yes,
because deep inside the Israelis want to ruin this agreement and want to go back to war, and they want to find a pretext, and they nearly did that last Saturday. If it wasn't for the decisive intervention of Egypt and Qatar as the mediators to save the agreement.
So, sir, can we talk a bit about, quote, the bold vision? What details have been revealed from Trump's bold vision for Gaza's future, as discussed between Netanyahu and Rubio, especially with Rubio's first visit to Tel Aviv as the U.S. Secretary of State?
Well, I would rather describe it, if you see, and I will not choose my word carefully. It's the vision of lunacy and madness. Basically, this is what the vision that Mr. Trump was presenting, unfortunately. But what I think, what we have heard out of Rubio and Netanyahu today, there was actually some discrepancy in their positions regarding that, because what Netanyahu said, we have to eradicate Hamas and destroy Hamas, and there is no other alternative. What Rubio said, Hamas cannot be in power in Gaza. And I think this is something that we can work with, because actually yesterday, an Egyptian source has revealed that Hamas, as part of a larger agreement, might be willing not to govern, might pledge not to govern the Gaza Strip. So there might be an agreement here that can make us avoid war with Hamas, agreeing, and maybe the Americans are starting to listen to common sense, basically. And if they are, this will be very disappointing for Mr. Netanyahu. However, I do not trust the Trump administration. I do not trust the American. I never even trusted the Biden administration, who allowed this genocide to go on for over 14 months. Yes. So my optimism will remain cautious, Rehab.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. From Cairo, that was International Relations Specialist Dr. Mohammed Osman. Thank you so much for joining us here on Qnews. And now back to you, Rana, in the studio.
Thank you very much, Reham Morsi, for your analysis. And we move on with 3 Palestinians have been killed and several others were injured in an airstrike carried out by an Israeli drone targeting a gathering of civilians east of the Palestinian side of the Rafah in southern Gaza. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, Gaza's hospitals received 7 fatalities and 5 injured individuals in the past 24 hours. The ministry added that this brings the total number of casualties from the aggression on Gaza since October the 7th, 2023 to 48,271 deaths and 111,693 injuries. Hamas has said the drone attack on the Palestinian side of Rafah city targeting police officers is a serious violation of the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. In a statement, Hamas accused Israel of ignoring the terms of the truce, also by preventing the entry of 8 trucks and heavy machinery into the Gaza Strip. Hamas said Israel's hesitation in starting negotiations to implement the second phase of the ceasefire confirms its lack of seriousness in adhering to the agreement. The group called on mediators to oblige Israel to stop its violations of the agreement and begin negotiations for the second phase. The Israeli occupation forces are continuing their assault on the city of Jenin and its refugee camps for the 27th consecutive day, resulting so far in the killing of at least 25 individuals, dozens of injured, and widespread destruction of property and infrastructure. The ongoing Israeli escalation is part of a broader military offensive that began on January the 21st in Jenin and its refugee camp, as well as surrounding towns. The Israeli army expanded its assault in Tul Karam on January the 27th. The escalation follows a ceasefire and detainee exchange deal in Gaza on January the 19th. Israeli occupation forces have carried out a series of raids across the West Bank over the last few hours, detaining several Palestinians, including men and a woman. The detentions took place in multiple areas, including Al Khalil, Ramallah, Beit Lahem, and Qalaqliya, as part of an ongoing military crackdown on Palestinian communities. These detentions are part of a continuing trend of Israeli military raids in the occupied West Bank. Such attacks, which include house raids and detentions, are contributing to growing tensions in the region. Israeli military checkpoints have blocked the entry of mobile homes and heavy equipment into the Gaza Strip, defying its commitments under the ceasefire deal with Hamas. Israeli media revealed that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu refuses to allow the entry of mobile homes and heavy equipment into the Gaza Strip during security consultations held last night. Netanyahu's refusal to approve the entry of equipment into the Gaza Strip comes at a time when he wants to extend the current first stage of the agreement between the specified 42 days, which are scheduled to end on March the 1st. Israeli protesters have said they were worried about the future of the ceasefire after a week of uncertainty about the deal between Israeli government and Hamas. The ceasefire's second phase is meant to usher in negotiations to return to the remaining living detainees among the 251 seized that day and complete an Israeli military withdrawal before a final end to the war and the reconstruction of Gaza. Negotiations for this second phase have yet to begin. Moving on to Lebanon and in Beirut, where Saudi Arabia has fully supported Lebanon's measures to safeguard its citizens and firmly address the attack on the UNIFIL peacekeepers. That comes as Riyadh reaffirmed its confidence in President Joseph Aoun, Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, and the Lebanese army's efforts to maintain security. The statement followed the attack on a UNIFIL vehicle near Beirut's airport, which injured the mission's deputy commander. Hezbollah has condemned the recent attack on a UNIFIL convoy near Beirut's Rafiq Hariri International Airport. In a statement, Hamas firmly rejected any assault on UNIFIL forces or damage to public and private property. The statement followed an incident where a UNIFIL vehicle was targeted, injuring the mission's deputy commander. Hezbollah's stance aligns with broader Lebanese efforts to maintain security and stability. Moving on to Syria, where the state television has announced that the Preparatory Committee for the National Dialogue Conference held its first meeting in Homs. That comes as political and social figures attended the discussions at the city's Culture Palace. UN envoy Pedersen urged Syrian authorities to pursue peaceful transition, emphasizing inclusive dialogue over military solutions. Pedersen stressed the need for a new constitution and free elections to achieve lasting peace and stability in Syria.
Will adopt a new constitution.
This brings us to the end of the news bulletin. Here is what we have been covering. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Jordan's Crown Prince Abdullah discussed Gaza's reconstruction without displacement. Marco Rubio arrives in Tel Aviv on his first visit to the Middle East as U.S. Secretary of State. And Israel receives 1,800 Mk-84 bombs after Trump lifts Biden-era shipment block. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Qnews EG to stay informed. Thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.